My name is Daniel Smith. I have the privilege and honor of being the students minister here at CityBridge Community Church. And man, I love you guys. I love your family. Here's what I love also. In Matthew 28, Jesus gives a commission to his disciples to go and make disciples among all nations. And one of the things that we get to do at CityBridge is celebrate stories. And these stories, all these stories that you hear are stories of discipleship. And today we have a junior in high school who's been walking along in a small group in discipleship for 6 years. I hope you're encouraged by Evan's story. One of the things that I've had the privilege of doing is watching what God's been doing in his life. And so now we get to share that with you guys. And so give it up for Evan.
Good morning, guys. Glad you could make it here, see me. I'm that guy. For my whole life, I was raised in a Christian household. I knew Jesus loved me. I grew up knowing all the Bible stories. The truth of the Bible filled my mind. I had a saving faith. I lived my life telling people I was a Christian, but the only way that that manifested and the way that I lived was doing all the right things. Elementary rules that we all get taught as children. I mostly fell short of God's perfect standard because my heart was hard towards correction and admonishment. I thought I could do things on my own. This led to a development of pride that would not allow me to be wrong in my arguments or my actions. I'd ferociously defend anything I did, even if I knew deep down that I had messed up. I believed I was better than everyone else, and I had the right to look down upon them because of their shortcomings, even though I knew I was deeply sinful as well. Anger and self-dependence filled my spirit. There was not much room left for God. I forgot the powerful truth of a simple verse that I memorized so long ago, I don't remember when I did it. It was Romans 3:23. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. I forgot I was a sinner too, because my sin does not show in such physical ways as the people around me, even though my sin might have been more damaging to my life and relationships with others than their struggles. As I got older, my sin patterns grew deeper and wider. In addition to being prideful and judgmental, I felt insecure and sought the approval of other people around me. I put my value in what other people thought of me, how they laughed at my jokes that kept getting dirtier, and the opinion of their clothes that I wore that kept getting more expensive. I lived an exhausting lifestyle that never fulfilled me because I tried to find my purpose, value, satisfaction, safety, life, protection, and confidence in something that would only lead to death. The only people in this world that could have given me a chance at showing me real peace was my small group, but I didn't allow them to give me the gift of community because I was pleading for their acceptance as well. There's a great divide between the way I thought, my motivations, and the way that I acted in appearance to other people. Out of motivation from a church weekend event more than a year ago, I decided that I was going to start reading my Bible again. I always knew I was supposed to, but it's just one of those quote-unquote rules that was more annoying to follow. So out of my sinful, check-the-box lifestyle that led me to read the Bible again, God began to bring me to him. I realized that less than after a week of reading the Bible, I was not living in the way that God called me to. When listening to a talk in a high school ministry on a Sunday night, God showed me that I was not finding my value in him, but what other people thought of me. When called to leave that lifestyle behind, I felt paralyzing fear when I thought about living for God instead of man. I could not imagine a life where I did not care about what other people thought. My sin was so deeply entrenched in my life that I couldn't imagine a life without it. A change in my soul had to start with loving God more. I could not change my heart and my actions, and I had to let myself be open to God, truly confess and take account of all of my sins and ditches and struggles that I kept running back to. Then he would change me himself. I prayerfully sought a mindset that praised God in everything I did, not just the songs that I sang on Sundays. When I had a God-centered heart, my actions began to change, and I did things for God instead of my own benefit or the approval of others. I found that living for God was so much more rich than the sins that I previously desired. There's days when I relapse, when it gets hard. I forget God's perfect promises that drew me close to him in the first place because of my imperfect, sinful nature. But God is always there when I turn back around. He loves me the same. My 180-degree turnaround in the midst of a deeply broken lifestyle reminded me of another simple verse, Romans 5:8. For God demonstrates his great love for us in this, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Christ died for us before we were even born, not after we cleaned up our act. He wants a relationship with us now, and he is ready to change your heart. Now that I truly live for Christ, I want nothing more than to share this intense feeling with others. I thought that being a Christian was boring in the past, and I was right for thinking that from the place I was. Following rules and being good doesn't have the same rewards as acting righteously from a heart of worship because of a desire to respond to a God that won't stop loving me. Having a real two-way relationship with God gives me more value, more acceptance and purpose and love than anything this world has to offer, and especially more than being good. Nothing keeps me close to God more than my community that I've now allowed to be effective in my life. Hearing a God-centered view on what I'm struggling with in my life every week keeps me accountable and motivated to keep praising Jesus every day. The last verse that I'm going to give you today gives me courage and hope when my circumstances are tough or going smooth. John 16:33 says, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you may have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." Jesus has overcome the world. We have already won, even if it feels like we're fighting a losing battle. It's not an unfounded fear that you'll be rejected for some degree for living for Christ. But the thing is, if you're really living for God, the rejection does not matter anymore. Your value is not found there. We have found something that the world can never compete with, and my heart burns to show others what God can truly do in their lives.